struggled for a long time with surviving. No matter what, you keep finding something to fight for.
Hello everybody, this is Snarist, and welcome back to the continuation of my Last of Us, Part 1, Grounded Difficulty Guide. This is Part 4, Pittsburgh. And this is one of my favourite areas in the game. In fact, it might be my favourite area in the game. It's a tricky thing, because despite the fact that there's several... no, I'll bring it up later. Anyway, this section here is a little tricky, because there's like 5 enemies. There's a haymaker the fuck out of that guy. There's about 5 enemies in this area, or 6, I forgot what it is, I'm pretty sure it's just 5. A couple of melee guys, a few guys with guns. If you take out the first guy with a gun and then you move off to the left here, I fuck up and thinking I could grab him around the corner, but his awareness is too high, so that's not going to work. So I killed the guy with the board, and as soon as I kill one more guy, behind me on the other end of the street, there'll be 3 more enemies, one with a melee weapon and 2 with guns, will drop down. So I've got the hunting rifle equipped and I've got the revolver equipped because I want to put them down immediately. Although I'm pretty sure I switched to the shotgun. So I've now moved away from the area that they were, so they've lost me, or they may have spotted me, I don't know, I've got the volume down. Okay, so they have spotted me. So the guy with the board isn't really a problem. If he comes towards me, he comes towards me. But if you take too long looking in one direction, the other guy with the gun will flank around to your left and go in these windows here. Yeah, see, look, right there. So I'll go ahead and punch them because this is dangerous, because when they've got melee weapons and you don't, they do that. And you can't block that. If you have a melee weapon, you can block it, but they can't. So I kill them quickly, but I hop over the window. This is a big risk, because obviously, yeah, I'm vulnerable from the back. But if I'm quick enough, I pull out the shotgun, and you can take out the 2 guys with guns, and maybe even the 3rd guy with a gun, get back in the window to avoid him getting shot in the back. So you can kill these guys before they spawn in and run around and cause more problems. And if you just keep going back and forth, you're alright. So the one guy with a melee weapon that was back over by the store, he tends to be pretty passive, but there'll be one guy with a pistol, and so I'm just trying to dart around here, but Joel keeps bouncing off things like a fucking numpty. And there I go to shoot around the corner, but it doesn't fucking work, and he's ready for me. But even though that was a bit of a messy way to end the level, I still survived, and that's the end of them. Joel says that's the last of them. And then we go around and just start searching a couple of the cupboards back in the store and a couple other places we haven't gone through before. All these cabinets and closets and drawers and everything. And that's the end of the section. So not too bad. I do want to say, by the time I get to the end of the game, I still have like 1 or 2 med kits, and I've got enough to make like another molly or something. So if you feel the need to ever just drop the odd med kit here and there, if you know you've got a long time ahead of you before you know... Because every time you die, if you're low on health, when you go into a section and you reload that section, you'll still be on low health, so you really do need to make sure that you're prepared with something in case you need an emergency health kit. But the checkpoints system in this game is extremely fair. There are some sections where you're on the run from something, like that armoured truck with a machine gun on it. That checkpoints so much, it's ridiculous. Whereas in the original and the remaster on Grounded, that was all just one checkpoint. If you failed, you had to go to the beginning of the whole thing. It was very brutal. That's why, despite how difficult the enemies are to deal with sometimes, especially when it comes to stealth, the remake is still infinitely easier than the original / remaster. By the way, new drinking game, take a shot every time I make a comparison between the original and the remaster and the remake. And so I'm just sitting here biding my time, waiting to talk about some of the biggest parts, because here's that. I got a nice glass of Pepsi Max with me, and I got a bag of snakes. So, you know, very healthy afternoon snacks, but it is what it is. And I mean, what are your guys' favourite like party or like, you know, snacks to munch on? For me, it's peanut M&Ms. I'm a fiend when it comes to peanut M&Ms. And when it comes to Pepsi Max, I've gotten used to the taste of it since being over here in Australia, but I think we can all agree that while regular Pepsi tastes like arse, Pepsi Max is much better. Like, Pepsi Max is better than Coke, but regular Pepsi is worse than everything. It's the strangest thing. So in the section here, you'll find your first smoke bomb already made, and you'll find a couple of, you know, resources and items. And upstairs there'll be some pills, and I believe we can upgrade our weapons way completely. If not, then we just have to wait till we go after the bookstore section. And in fact, now while I've got some time, there's a toolbox there as well. Don't forget that, so you can get to level 2 tools, I believe. You still can't do that many more upgrades, but you know, better than nothing. And, well, if you miss like a toolbox as early as you can go, you will find another toolbox to replace it a little bit later on. Like you might notice in the environment, there's some like red toolboxes. That's where they would be if you didn't find it before. But, yeah, there's a couple of sections that are going to be coming up within this earlier parts of the video. The first one's going to be the bookstore, pretty infamous, and the hotel. Both those sections are extremely difficult on the remake because there's so many enemies. Stealthing's basically impossible. You can't predict where they're going to be. But I shit you not, I put that much time into the original and the remaster that I had written documents like 10 to 15 pages on each of the hotel, not the hotel, but the bookstore and the hotel section. Different stealth routes, different patterns, the timings. I could stealth kill every single enemy in that bookstore and in that hotel and pick all the loot clean. But the reason why I don't do it in this is because not only is stealth basically impossible, but if you get discovered, they call in more reinforcements. And in the original and the remaster, it's a bit of a weird thing because even though I could kill everybody silently, if you kill everybody silently with like strangleholds, when you go to loot around thinking you're safe, you're not safe because enemies start spawning in across the hotel or across the bookstore from the side and they see the dead bodies and they get alerted immediately and that brings more enemies. So the way I managed to overcome this was I actually I hit the last enemy near the exit with a bow, and for some reason when I did that it didn't alert the enemies and it didn't spawn in anymore and that ended the encounter. I have no idea why it's bugged out like that, but it works for the hotel, it works for the bookstore, it works everywhere there. So what I just did before is I upgraded the secondary holster so I could hold two small pistols at the same time, and I can also upgrade a bit of the bow, so I did that. Now I'm going to sprint to the far right and I'm just going to crouch behind this car here. So a bit of a delay there because the footage is sped up. Wait here and don't move. Like literally just sit at the back of here. It's very tempting, it's very boring. You get to sit here for like a minute or a minute and a half. It's very boring, but just don't move. And when Ellie says that you can go, just make sure that, make sure it's all safe before you fully go out from behind that fence there. And yeah, you should be all good. And so when it comes to this bookstore sequence, if you're looking for a guide on picking up all the loot and killing all the enemies on grounded, you're not going to find it here. Because I'm going to take care of a couple of enemies outside the bookstore, then I'm going to sneak around the side, and I'm going to fuck up and I'm going to get a checkpoint where I'm basically stuck in a position where enemies will see me no matter where I go, or they'll see me when they start patrolling past me, so it's a really bad section. But if I restarted the encounter, I'd have to start at the beginning of the first section where I take out those two guys that I was talking about before. And when that happens, it just takes forever. And so I'm going to take a huge risk by sneaking up to the stairs area to go upstairs. I'm going to take out the guy that sniped me the first time and killed me. And then I'm going to take out the other guy and I'm just going to run for the door. And even though there's loot lying around everywhere, I'm going to just run straight for the exit because there's a chance I can still get killed. Okay, so this section here, crouch down immediately and keep moving. Go at full speed crouch walk. Don't stand up, otherwise you'll get hurt. Stick as far to the left as you can and be as quick as you can, because if you're not quick enough, then one of the guys that are camped out by there, they will actually spot you out of their peripherals and they'll alert the enemies. Because if you hang anywhere else before where I am right now, behind that dumpster there, or one of the boxes before, you will get seen. So this is about the safest places you can be to grab the guy that's about to turn around and come back towards you. And I'm speeding up the footage because this conversation takes fucking forever. So, yeah, once he does that, slowly creep up behind him. I was really worried that I failed there because he's like, oh fuck. And I was really worried that I'd failed there, but he didn't see me, so I'm taking a huge risk here and standing right where I am. But because if I went anywhere else, the guy at the other end here would see me, but the guy wandering around with a wooden board, there's a chance he may see me before, but he didn't. So I'm being real careful with this guy here, because if I let him get too far down that way, he'll see the dead body of the guy that I choked out before. So I need to take him out quickly without alerting him to my footsteps, because when the guy before got spooked by me, and I took him out quickly enough, I'm not going to have the same advantage with that guy there, because, well, he'll be a lot closer to where the board guy is wandering around. And you can technically wait down that end and for him to turn around and start wandering around before you can sneak up behind him and kill him. You can do that, but it's just so weird, and he moves so strange. Like, he's always like just kind of like got his head over his shoulder. He's always moving around. He's really finicky with his movements. So I'm just going to back off a little bit here, and I'm going to wait till he gets to the other side and starts turning around, and then I'm just going to start full speed crouch walking for it, and I'm going to get to the left side of the building. And so I'm just going to go for it and take the risk. And yeah, he'll turn around soon, but I get by in time. And this is where I slow it back down again. With this section here, you can quite happily like crouch walk at full speed and vault over the window. They won't hear you. There'll be a Molotov guy and 2 other guys there. Now, you can technically go straight ahead and finish off what I'm going to do right now, if you want to, and get it all over and done with. Or if you fail like I do, I respawn here and get a checkpoint. I'm going to head straight towards these stairs. They're going to see me when I get to the middle there, or they're going to be like spooked by the idea of me being there. So right there, they're suspicious of me, but I get in cover in time. But then the guy, one guy patrolling up here, he's got a hunting rifle and he will kill you. So he spots me before I can get a beat on him, so I kill him quickly, and I aim up quickly, snap, aim to him, and don't worry about any of the loot here, just run, run, run. So the guy almost shot me from behind because there's a guy on the other side of the bookstore. Jump down here, move to the far left. So Joel's taking fucking forever to recover, and I hate this, I'm just cursing it right now. Stick to the left, crouch down every once in a while, but just sprint for the edge, because every enemy, the moment you start running for the exit, is programmed to hunt you down and prioritize getting to you. So you're going to have like 3, 4, or 5 of them coming at you at once. But as soon as you get over here and down the balcony, you are completely safe. They won't chase you, and they'll despawn, but you can't get back over. And don't forget those pills down in the garbage before there. So yeah, that's a really shit encounter on the remake, and I wish I could show you something a bit better, something a bit more coherent, but part of it is down to luck. And when you come down the street here, you have a bit more of a reprieve. Take the left here, underneath this sort of like blue umbrella with the door with the X on it. You can use a shift to get in there. And it's going to be I think it's going to be an arrow in there, and it's going to be a couple of hunting rifle rounds. And it's going to be a fair bit of looting going forth before we get to the hotel section. But luckily with the hotel section, as much as I know that the loot you find is a lot better than in the original / remastered grounded mode, and I would really love to know what sort of loot you can find after clearing the hotel out. I know that it would take either forever to stealth it, or, you know, if you want to take the combat approach, you'll have almost no ammo for sections where you really need it. Because there's so many sections in this game, particularly near the end of Pittsburgh, and particularly during Tommy's Dam, and the end of the university, and especially through winter. I think winter might have been the hardest time I had, where there's just so much working against you, it's just not even fair. So you have to wait until the truck passes by before you can dive under the water, and there's 10 parts down here, so don't forget those. Just a little something extra. And once you get the pallet back to Ellie and you put her up onto the truck, you come into the coffee shop, you search the lower floor, and then you search the upper floor. It's just some bits and pieces lying around. Now, I know that you can find 1 or even 2 fully formed smoke bombs. Honestly, apart from maybe one section of the game, I would recommend never using smoke bombs at all, because the smoke bombs in this game are fucking shit. When you get them for the first time, in the original and the remaster, they're very useful because they completely shroud you in smoke, and that makes getting through the sniper section a lot more useful. You know, because you can throw it. There's going to be a corner you come to in the section that I go through with the sniper section, and it gives you a bit of a moment, because vaulting over the box that's in front of you next to a fence it takes too long to get over, and Joel gets sniped, and if you run around it, it takes too long still, so putting a smoke bomb down definitely helps. But unless you've got smoke bomb upgrades, like both of them, throughout the game, and when it comes to the very end, when you put the smoke bomb down, the smoke becomes very thick, and it actually becomes useful, and it lingers around for very long. But, you know, even without the upgrades, the original smoke bombs were so good for those few sections where you just needed to run on past enemies and get away. But yeah, for the most part, smoke bombs in this game are fucking useless. Even nail bombs. Like, nail bombs still have a high radius for explosions, but the enemies have to get practically like right up against it and brush it with their foot to set it off. Like, those bombs not only did so much damage in the original / remaster, but they didn't even have to be all that near them to set them off. Like, I've gone through sections and restarted checkpoints where I throw a nail bomb into their nest or their area, and none of them die because none of them set it off. And it's like right by their feet and right by their bodies. And I'm just like, what the fuck? because nail bombs are really useful, and you definitely need to make sure you have one or two of them on hand. But yeah, so the ladder's going to be set up on one of these other platforms here against it. You want to move it to the one I just put it against because there's 10 parts up there, and you want to put it up against this here to move on to the next area. But instead of moving on to the next area and taking a left, you take a right, and you shimmy along the edge of these broken stairs, and you can find a note that has a combination on it, and the combination leads to a safe that's behind the counter down in the lobby a bit further. So there you go, 22, 10, 56. I don't know if you can activate the safes and try to put in the password before you get here, but it would definitely save you some time, wouldn't it? And I remember distinctly in the original and the remaster, you could hop over that railing and that balcony and fall down. It wouldn't do any damage to you, but it was a good way to get around all this. But yeah, this is a bit of a longer detour. And so there's going to be an upgrade in here for your shivs. So now we get 3 pips to stab people, but I'm never going to use it for that. I'm only going to use it to open shiv doors. And it just goes to show the resource differences, doesn't it? Because there's maybe about 4 or 5 shiv doors that I miss on Grounded in the original and remaster because of the lack of resources. Because you find quite a few blade, but you find almost nothing for binding, even though binding is only ever used for shivs and upgrading your melee weapons. You find tons of blade everywhere, and it has the most uses out of everything, but you find almost no binding, and there's only one good thing it's used for, whereas Molotovs and medkits use both alcohol and rags. But it always makes you wonder though, doesn't it? Like, sure, that's cool, but where's the vessel for it? Okay, this is a tough sequence, and it requires stealth because fuck fighting through all these guys, but if you do and you manage to survive, you definitely deserve a heal, and you definitely deserve to loot everything you can. So this guy here, I've had several problems when it comes to his AI. Sometimes when I leap over in that moment, right there, when he's looking at the, the drawers, sometimes he'll turn around and hear me and see me immediately. Other times I have to wait for him to get to the doorway before I can grab him. But even then, he turns around way too quickly, so I can't sneak up to him. So that first guy is definitely going to be your biggest problem. Or you can just shoot him with the bow and arrow if you want to speed things up, and you can chunk that guy out instead. But I did it in reverse order. Make sure you pick up that before you go through here, because it's a full explosive component and you need a lot of that. So ignore the main hallway and go off to the left and go up through this hole here in the ceiling and go through the bathroom and search these rooms for whatever you can find. There's a couple of bits and pieces lying around, and you won't have the next area of enemies triggered unless you go out into the hallway. So just stick to these rooms, move around, pick up some bits and pieces, and then you want to go out through here. And as soon as you hear a cough, move up to this corner, make sure that the 3 of them are out there. One of them's going to move down the hallway, one of them's going to move into the rooms, and one of them's going to come through that door right ahead of me. And he's going to go up to the wardrobe, and he's going to look at it for a little bit, and then he's going to wander off into the bathroom area. Now, you can leave him alone and just carry on, but I don't want to take that risk, and I just take him out with the bow, I believe. Yep. So I just leave him alone, and at this point, you can full speed crouch walk. Don't bother looking in any direction, because all it'll do is slow you down, you can get seen. Just take a risk and waddle at full speed as far as you can, all the way down the hall. You can look to the right if you want to, but there's usually nobody down there. Just keep at it, keep moving full speed towards it. And yeah, you find a full bottle of alcohol there, very nice. And just hold down the prompt or whatever it is to push the doors open and get up the ladder. And at that point, when the doors are opened, you've won. And none of them are any the wiser, none of them hear you, none of them know you're there. And now we come down into, I don't even know what the section is, but when you fall down the elevator after it snaps, you're going to wander through this flooded area at the bottom of the hotel, and you're going to be searching around in a couple of these areas, and for the most part you're pretty safe. But I believe if you try to go out through the exit door and then you see it that it's locked, or you go for the key card first in the control room, what will end up happening is the stalkers will spawn, and there's about 4 of them. So as soon as you kill 4 of them, you're all safe. But I'm going to go to the keycard room first after I search this area here, and there's going to be a bottle or even a brick lying around, so you want to make sure you pick that up before you pick up the keycard, but you got to be quick as well, because if you take too long, the stalker will either hit you in the back, or by the moment you turn around, it'll run off. Now, it's usually already pretty too quick to deal with, but these stalkers at the same time are a little bit more aggressive than how they were. No, actually, they're less aggressive, actually. They're less aggressive than they used to be, but they're a lot easier to deal with, I think, because, I mean, they're both about the same, but in different ways. I think these stalkers are much better balanced and designed. So yeah, throw a brick at that one, get your shotgun out, have it up, ready to go. There's a brick right here. Yeah, again, the collision, the detection, it's so fucking hard to actually pick things up. So I don't want to take that risk and look away from them. Because if you look away from them, it's definitely a viable strategy, but... yeah, there's a brick down there, you can pick it up, you can throw it at them. That's 2 of them down so far. And there's a 3rd dead there. So I killed 2 with bricks and the grabs and the shotgun. I go back into the control room and there's 1 more guy coming. So I turn around with the bottle. See, the stalkers in this are a lot more quiet. So make sure you keep an eye on them. The more you run away into certain areas, the more that they're willing to follow you and chase you down. But never leave this general area here. Because the reason why is, if you noticed in that lounge area there, off to the left, it's a straight drop down to the lower level, and there's a ramp that leads back up onto the other side of it. But outside of the control room, ahead is the lounge, off the left is that drop off, but off to the right, it's a blocked exit. So, or it's the bathroom actually. So as long as you keep an eye on what's in front of the control room, none of them will go in the bathroom, none of them will flank behind you, and they won't be smart enough to go that far because you'll be watching it and they won't be able to get by you. So that's a way that you can sort of hold down the fort, and you've got plenty of room to run around in and get them to chase you and bait them. So I'm just going to do some upgrades here and there, crafting actually. And I don't know if this applies to the remake, but for the original and remaster, I specifically remember that if you found the keycard and you restored the power and you came up to this door, if you tried to... the game forces you to try and open it before you swipe the keycard, which is ridiculous. So in this, I just wanted to make sure I tried the door first, in case it did the same thing. Because I will have to kill a stalker before I leave the room, because it's going to be a bloater that spawns in. But luckily, unlike the original and the remaster, the bloater doesn't actually spawn at the exit door. It spawns down here in the lower level. So you can get to the end of the exit pretty quickly. So just ignore everything, run through here, be very, very quick. If you're too slow, the stalker will hit you from behind. Just run to the exit door, get to the door, turn around, and you won't be able to use it, so just turn around and take out the first stalker. Make sure you use a shotgun just to be quick, and then go ahead and swipe the keycard. And just in case the game makes you try the door first instead of the keycard swipe, you know, you don't want it to cuck you like that, so make sure you try the door first before you turn on the power. Make sure all the stalkers are dead before then as well. Then turn on the power, then go swipe the door after you've killed 1 stalker. And be quick about it, otherwise another stalker will come and stop you. And I think there's going to be another stalker after that, and a bloater as well. And you definitely don't want to have to deal with him trying to go through the door, because it won't let you. And if it doesn't let you and the bloater's at the other end of the hallway coming towards you, you've basically got nowhere to go. So in here is just a few parts, a few things lying around, but I'm not going to use the bench for a very long time. Yeah, the next bench is not too far away from here, but then after that there's almost no bench for any time until you get not even down into the sewers. There's no bench in the sewers, which is ridiculous. But the next bench you'll find after one that comes up soon is going to be in the suburbs, and that's where I'm going to have a shit ton of parts. But that is okay, because we don't really need any upgrades right now, and we won't for some time. So here's a little bit finicky, because if you take too long to take this guy out, the guy on the other side will see you. So I just take him out with a bow. His body's fallen behind the kitchen area, so his body's obscured, his body's hidden. And I think I do a bit of a sloppy job killing this other guy here. Be careful of the debris around here, because sometimes you can make noises and bump things that cause noise. You know, I have a lot to say about that when it comes to David's section in the winter, where you're playing as Ellie and you've got to stealth, take him down, and it becomes a cat and mouse game. Very intense, and I like it a lot for that reason, but he's just so frustrating to deal with. Although, luckily, in the remake, even though the enemy's awareness is supposed to be ramped up, his section feels a lot more fair than the original and remaster does. Because the original and remaster are so fucking bullshit sometimes. Like, I shit you not, I've once had a section where I was going cat and mouse with David in that final phase of his, because again, in the original remaster, you've got almost no checkpoints in these sections. So, unlike with the remake, you know, in the remake here, every section of David's, you know, boss fight, quote unquote, that you go through. So, you know, you stab him once, you get a checkpoint. You stab him twice, you've got another checkpoint. And yeah, his final phase where he just scampers around and he's hiding, he's moving really quietly, he's trying to track you down by being quick, and he gets more aggressive with his gun. that's a section that you can load up with a checkpoint, which is really good, and I like it a lot. But in the original and remaster, for the reason that you had to go through all 3 phases without dying in order to beat it, that's what makes it difficult. And I shit you not, I've been so scared that, you know, carefully moving around trying to find him, but also not knowing how he worked properly. You know, I spent 20 minutes on that final phase just like locked in fully, never being distracted by anything, never, like, hardly breathing or not breathing properly, just, you know, keeping it all in, you know, staying fully immersed in the game. And yeah, it's definitely a pretty intense section, but there's just so many problems I have with it as well. I'll get more into that later on because there's plenty to talk about with it. So this here is me just more or less moving around, picking up loot. Don't forget this manual book here. I forgot what it's for, but I would imagine it's for what I would remember correctly, it increases the radius of the Molotovs. I'm not sure if that's what it is or not, but yeah, there's some parts lying around here on the ground. And I think there's also some sugar on one of these tables, but I don't think I pick it up because I can't find it. And when you get up after the piano, up onto the balcony area here, you go to the other side, you'll find some pills, I believe, or some parts. Yep. And this section down here used to be incredibly annoying on the original and the remaster. This section fucking sucked. I hate this. I hate this section so much on the original remaster, but on this it's actually quite fun because you get a lot more ammo from enemy drops compared to how it was in those versions of the game. And I just camp out here and shoot them all down. So wait for them all to get a little bit closer. Unfortunately, because the Molotovs in this version of the game suck, you only set like 2 of them on fire, the rest get damaged. And so I pull out my hunting rifle and just start laying into them because I know that the hunting rifle, there'll be one... When Ellie finishes with her sniping section and the game's over and done with, she puts her rifle against one of these sort of seats or these stone garden areas, and you can pick it up and you get 1 shot. So, you know, don't waste too much of your hunting rifle ammo because it is a very useful gun. It's the whole like 1 shot, 1 kill, problem solved type of thing. But I'm going to use more of the ammo just so I can make room for the next shift door we come across where we meet Henry and Sam for the first time because it has 2 rifle rounds within it. But I've got 1 bullet off of the max capacity for revolver ammo, so that's what you want to go for. Now, in terms of the weapons that do end up with full ammo, revolver sometimes ends up with full ammo, and you can't hold more than 18 rounds. With the hunting rifle, without any upgrades to the capacity, it's 7, and then it's plus 1 bullet for every thing going forward. That's what I do like about the crafting bench in this version of the game. It actually tells you what the upgrades actually do. Because it'll tell you like, oh, increase the gun's fire rate by 25%, and then the next one is plus 20%, so it stacks. So it actually tells you exactly what the guns do, and you can figure out how useful these upgrades really are. I like that a lot. That's the one thing I do like about it. So I'm taking a bit of a risk here and using melee weapons because the, you know, as soon as you come out of a melee animation and you're trying to crouch down, sometimes Joel will either crouch down and then crouch back up again because you're mashing it that much, or he won't do it when you want to, and it looks like he's about to crouch down, but he just kind of bobs his head up and down and doesn't actually move. It's the strangest thing. But yeah, don't be stingy with your revolver ammo in this section here because you're going to need something nice and quick. If you miss your shots and you're wasting ammo, just start the checkpoint again. Because doing it this way is definitely one of the fastest ways you can accomplish this area. And while you are wasting tons of ammo, and having all those revolver shots would definitely be useful in later stages of the game, I would argue there are still multiple ways you can overcome a lot of these sections, so why the hell not? And pretty soon I'm going to speed this section up because I'm wondering if there's actually anything going on. But as it turns out, other than this guy, there's 1 prick camped out on the right side behind one of those stone gardens, and he's just sitting there not moving at all. And so I'm just deciding to wander out of cover and wander around trying to find him, and I do find him, and I do end up killing him, and I think that's the end of the section. And then I go around searching for, you know, supplies that are left over. So I'm getting a little nervous here. I'm wondering, like, where the hell are they? Well, there's 1 guy there. So I get my revolver ready. Make sure you look from the left to the right. You know, always keep an eye out for what's going on. You'll notice back around that left side too, there's actually a little bit of a gap where you can squeeze in behind a car and a barrier. If you hear one of the enemies yell out, "Heads up!" or like, "Chew on this," or "Choke on this," or something like that, that means they're about to throw a Molotov, and so you need to sprint out of cover and move along the right or the left-hand side of these barricades, and then crouch back down again to avoid getting shot, but just far enough away that, you know, you don't have to get hit by the molly. So I throw a brick around this area here, hoping that they'll go like, because sometimes even though the enemies are hiding from you, obviously, there is a chance that they really don't know where you are and they're too nervous to move. So if you throw a brick or a bottle, it can spook them and move them out of cover, or it can make them go, "Huh, did you hear that?" And then you'll know where they are, or at least get a rough idea of where they are, because you can't use listen mode, so you can't use your radar. So yeah, there's that. So now that he's exposed in the open, I kill him. That's that. By the way, I think I should be pointing out as well that you can't kill anybody with a bottle, but you can stun regular enemies. However, when it comes to a brick, you can obviously like bash people's heads in and kill them, and it's really useful. Bricks and bottles still have the same throwing properties when it comes to quick throws, but the bottles are a little bit more useful when it comes to distractions, because they have a... I bet you didn't know that. Maybe you did know this, maybe you didn't, but bottles create more noise than bricks do. So if you want to draw a lot of enemies away in one go, throw a bottle. If you want to draw an enemy far away from your position, throw a bottle. If you want to draw a specific enemy away from the group, or if you want to draw specific enemies that are close enough to you, throw a brick. So yeah, just around the bottom of this cafe area, there's a few bits and pieces. There's an arrow in this office, I believe, and there's a couple other bits and pieces. And there's 25 parts that are sitting on a pallet nearby one of the trucks near the exit of where you're supposed to go. So don't forget that. And once you've collected everything in this area, you're free to move on. And when you do move on, there's going to be a couple of enemies that you'll have to face when you go through here. So there's just some parts lying around, but once you go through past the bench, not that I need anything, so I don't bother upgrading at the bench. And you're going to wander up some stairs after a little cutscene of people getting hunted down and killed, people that were part of Henry and Sam's group. And what's going to end up happening is they're going to wander towards you. You can stealth kill them if you want, but I stay back, I wait around a corner, and I let them go by. Because I just don't want to fuck with them. I wasted too much ammo in that encounter. I feel a little bit dirty about it. And for some reason I decided to upgrade my maximum health, probably because I'm worried about the sections coming up. And I have taken a few hits before, so I was probably at like half or a little bit more than half health, but I don't want to take that risk. So you just want to camp out around this corner here. They won't see you. Just don't move at all. You know, whether you're up against that little bookcase there or this one here, they'll just wander on by. They won't see you. And just wait for Ellie to start talking about how they seem scared of you. And when that happens, you're free to move. But don't sprint. Just in case they end up coming back and they haven't despawned, don't sprint. But in any case, there is a candy bar by one of these desks here. And when you wander on down here, this section took me a couple of retries because it's a little bit finicky. So crouch down when you get to this area here. You can mostly crawl through this area without getting seen from above somehow. But you want to move towards the barricades just to give yourself a little bit of extra protection. Because I'm pretty sure if you're directly in the open, you will get seen. Go up against the cop car, but don't go too far in front of the cop car because there's a tripwire there. If you could see that, there's like a nail bomb hooked to the edge of the building there. There's going to be a couple of those lying around, but as long as you know where they are, they're not really a problem. So coming up here, we're going to quickly kill this guy with a bow shot, because if we try to sneak up on him, we have to be slower than normal crouch walking speed, and these guys here can end up seeing him by the time we pull him back in. So I'm going to kill this guy first, and then I'm going to reach over and kill this other guy, but what I should have done is kill that guy there. Because if I was fast enough to kill the guy on the right, I could then kill the guy on the left with a lot of time, because if you want to do it the way I'm doing it, these two need to die very quickly, and you take out the guy at the back on the right hand side first, and then the guy by the window. But don't get complacent, because if you do that and one of them goes, oh fuck, then every other enemy, even though it makes no sense, will know where you are. And so this guy here with the melee weapon will come in, and he's completely undone the healing that I did. So it's a big fucking bullshit there, and why I made a mistake in upgrading my health with the pills, because I think I would rather have died than have to endure that. So the others do know where they are, but they're not going to push up because this area is booby-trapped, and so they're not as tempted to move in on your position as that melee enemy was. Or at the same time, it's possible they just aren't aware of your position, but the moment you come out of any one of these buildings, they'll know where you are. So with a lucky shot there, I used my last pistol round and I take him in the head. And there's still about 2 or 3 other people around here. One of them's got a shotgun, one of them's got a pistol. I go ahead and heal. And so I'm going to run back through this section here because I know there's a good chance they won't follow me, but if they do, I'm going to keep an eye on the front to make sure they don't come and rush me at the top or down below, because they always seem to rush you in the area you're not looking, even though they can't predict where you're going to look and not going to look. You know, you could always, if you're willing to spare it, you can always just throw a nail bomb down one area there and look at one another, so it tempts the enemies to move in the area you're not looking, but you've got a nail bomb there so they blow up. But nail bombs are too useful to waste on such a trivial thing. So I'm going to head back down the building, but on the other side, so I'm a bit further away, and maybe I've travelled further enough that they get confused about where I've gone, and there's a bit of a barricade here that gives me some slight protection as I move up. And I believe he's still seen me, or at least almost saw me. Again, the volume of this is practically muted, so I'm going to use a revolver round, and I'm just going to ping him from a distance. And there's another guy still back there. I think I took out the guy with the shotgun, so he's still a threat. And I believe I didn't go into that building in that first door because it's booby-trapped, I think. Because there's a couple of booby-traps around that store area. So I'm just going to wait for him to come out, and I'm just going to throw the brick in, and I'm going to go ahead and grab him. And so I hold him hostage, and I look left to right, and I back up a little bit, just so that I'm close to cover if I need it. But he was the last enemy, so I just went ahead and, you know, took care of him. And in one of the drawers here in this bank that they were guarding, or at least I think it's a bank, there's a shotgun shell. Now this next combat section coming up is a giant fucking pain in the ass. It was one of the worst sections I had in the entire playthrough I made in turning into this walkthrough, because it checkpointed so frequently, which is not a problem, but that armoured truck with the machine gun, it's got so much fucking accuracy. It's way more accurate than it is in the original. See, the original and the remaster was designed a lot better, and I'm just going to rush through this because we're going to come up to it and I want to be quick. The original and the remaster, it would shoot a few times, then pause for a slight second, and then shoot a few more times and then a little bit longer, and then it like waited for a whole second or so, and it gave you time to rush out of cover to the next area, and it never hounded you. But this truck here, it absolutely hounds you. It never stops, and you know, it constantly shoots. Its accuracy is dead on, and this is why I have a problem with it, because in this remake, it never gives you a break. You die super quickly. It damages you more than just about anything else in this game, and at the same time, you barely get a second to get into the next piece of cover. So you're going to see me take a lot of damage. You're going to see a couple of awkward cuts here and there, but it's all by design because it's a stupid fucking encounter. So I got a few checkpoints in this area here, but because I wanted it to be nice and clean, I decided to restart the entire encounter, which I like. You can choose whether you want to restart the checkpoint or restart the entire encounter. And so I chose the encounter. So we're going to sneak around the back here. Don't stand up and don't regularly jog or sprint because they'll hear you, because there's two guys in that building to your right, but they talk for ages about canned bacon, and they're going to be talking about it for about a minute or two, so you've got plenty of time to get around here, choke this guy out, take that pipe, so you've got something full and fresh. And unlike in the original and remaster, where you could sneak across most of the street without getting seen, this thing is designed to always see you, and it's fucking stupid. If you look at its gun turret, and it's moving backwards, and it's facing away from you 180 degrees, it snaps with like inhuman aim back to where you are. It's so stupid. So you want to be nice and quick with this. Now what I should have done here is heal, but I was extremely lucky to avoid getting shot. Use a hunting rifle round or a revolver round, whatever you want to use. I pull out the pistol. It's a bit of a risk. Now as long as you're here, this armoured truck will still keep bashing away at the gate. Run directly towards the corner of that building to get some cover from the machine gun, and it's going to have a little bit of a harder time bashing through that gate, but as long as you can take advantage of that, you can get into the store before it shoots you. No enemies will follow you, but yeah, fuck that sequence. Probably took me about 10 or 15 minutes. That doesn't sound that long, does it? But you know, a minute or a minute and a half long sequence versus the 10-15 minutes it took me to get a proper like singular go with it. Like 10 to 15 minutes on the highest difficulty when I've played this game, not the remake specifically, but when I've played a game that is almost exactly similar for hundreds of hours, it just frustrates me and it feels like a waste of time. It feels way longer than 10 or 15 minutes. So in any case, yeah, this first room here has a manual. I forgot what its upgrade is. I'm pretty sure, don't quote me on this, I'm pretty sure it's to do with smoke bombs, increasing the duration of the smoke, but I could be wrong. There's a shiv door on the next floor down when you're meeting up with Sam and Henry. There's going to be a couple of hunting rifle rounds. There's going to be a couple of pistol bullets, I think, and a few bits and pieces for resources and supplies. And in the next section coming up, if you remember, at the beginning of this video, I talked about how Henry pissed me off so much when he was around us, and in the combat, especially of the next section coming up, or in the next couple of sections coming up during the end of Pittsburgh, I couldn't stop hurling racial slurs at him. And that is true. Yes, I did drop the N-word and the hard R because he absolutely deserved it, because he's a dirty fucking monkey, I'll say. Jesus Christ, though. Like, it really was acting like a monkey, though, just dancing all over the place, never doing anything important, always just, never calling out anybody, never shooting at anybody, never hitting anybody, just absolutely fucking useless. I'm pretty sure Sam would be a bigger help. So this section here is when it first started getting rough for me as well, because I still haven't healed from my last encounter with the truck. So every time that you restart from a checkpoint, you can tell how badly injured you are. I'm like 1 or 2 shot away from getting killed, depending on where I get hit and what I get hit by. Sneak up to this car, take out the first guy with a headshot, use a brick or bottle, grab this guy here. And you can sometimes get away with this guy not seeing you, but he will see me and freak out. So I'm just going to wait till he stops moving. You can only hold on to this guy for like 20 to 30 seconds before he starts breaking free. If you start shooting wildly or you keep on doing that, he'll try to break free a lot more often. And yeah, when he breaks free, if he can break free and take you out, yeah, it's pretty much over. And so I'm going to go back here and pick up some parts and some alcohol I missed, because this section just starts you off immediately and I don't want to waste time with it. Now this here, take cover as soon as you can. Take out the first guy with whatever you have, and I completely missed with the pistol, and this is some real clown show work right here. So I want Henry to take care of this guy because he's out in the open. Somehow that missed. I don't know how the fuck that missed. But yeah, he's getting into cover. I'm trying to bait him. He only pops out of cover when I pop out of cover. So he's just kind of sitting up there. And so Henry does start taking shots at him, but he keeps on missing. I don't know if you can see it very well in this footage, but yeah, I'm just getting so frustrated. I just want to beat his head in with a fucking pipe. Because Jesus fucking Christ, man. Like, David's only around for temporarily, and David in the original and remaster, when you're Ellie and you're fighting those infected in that abandoned, like, what is it, a sawmill or something? Whatever it is. David in that version of the game is an absolute beast. He punches them in like 2 or 3 shots to death. He's really strong and he's really good. But in the remake, he's fucking terrible and he's useless, and he's almost as bad as Henry is. So this little room off here before you wander on down to the bottom floor, there's some parts, don't forget those. And here's probably what took me longer than just about any other sections in the game. So somehow, even in the original and remaster, Henry was synced perfectly to what your takedown was, but just for dramatic effect, they want, I don't know, they want to do it like a half a second later. And because sometimes I have gone through that, and the enemy out there does know where I am because of this. And I'm doing this risky strategy right here and speeding up the entire footage because, this whole sequence here took me nearly 5 minutes, because I was just so sick at that point of, sneaking around, because you can't sneak anywhere, because even with the spotlight not aimed on you, they can still see you in the dark. They can still see you really, really well. And no matter what you try, there's always a way for them to flank around you. And they flank around you all the time. You can't depend on Henry to protect you or to call them out. So you got guys with shotguns and boards rushing you from the side. You can't watch everywhere all at once. It's just not possible. And Henry doesn't even fucking do anything. Even Ellie doesn't do anything. It just goes to show, doesn't it? Like, you've got all these guys with all these guns, with all this ammunition on them. They never seem to run out. And, you can't pick up any of it. Like, can you imagine if they made another Last of Us game, or if they made like a survival game like this that's set in the apocalypse and you got enemies with guns like bandits trying to hunt you down? Can you imagine if they had only like 1 magazine? Like, because at this point, bullets are currency in the world, right? You trade bullets and protection for money, or, for food and water and all that. So, imagine if you had these enemies running around with like a pistol with a full clip, like 7 bullets, and, oh, by the way, this section here, duck off to the left and let Henry kill him. Don't bother fighting, because he'll quickscope you with his pistol super badly. You don't want to take that risk. But can you imagine if these bandits only had 7 bullets in a single clip of their pistol, and what ended up happening is, even if they saw you, they wouldn't immediately shoot you unless they knew they had a clear shot. It's sort of like those old games with the sniper sequences where if you take too long and you're out of cover too long, then they'll shoot you and they'll always perfectly hit you. But even though you could be out of cover for a few seconds and running around, as long as you get back into cover before then, they won't shoot you because they know they can't make that shot. I'd imagine it'd be similar to that. Like imagine these enemies just taking careful shots at you, and they wouldn't shoot unless they know they could hit you, and they would hit you. And if they ran out of ammo, then yeah, they would start using their melee weapons as clubs or something. They would start using their guns as clubs or something. You know, just some cool shit like that. Or they would actively try to scavenge and take the bullets or ammunition laying in the environment that you would have picked up instead. Like they're scavenging for items as much as you are. I think that would create like a really dynamic way. And I've got some pretty interesting project ideas I want to do in the future, maybe. And I definitely want to bring that up because there's a lot to talk about with that. And I think there's a lot that this, or even Last of Us Part 2 could have done. I think that Part 2 could have had a karma system where the more people you kill that had nothing to do with Joel's death, or the more like bloodthirsty you get, the more you start hallucinating Joel, telling you that this isn't the right way, or blah blah blah. Or the more crazy stuff you start seeing, and the more interesting and chaotic it makes your playthrough. But anyway, that's enough out of me. We're going to move on to the next section of the game, and I'll see you guys then.